What's up, everybody? We're here with the one and only Warner Fields from Fields of Profit. This dude is absolutely insane. He's a young guy. I believe he's 22 years old. He's fresh out of college. And, he's somebody who started with textbooks. So I want to interview him, ask him some questions about textbooks. He's transitioned into OA and wholesale. And, someone who I look up to in the space also on YouTube. So I just want to, welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Joji. Good to get to meet you at IRL a couple days ago.
We met in Miami. It was really awesome to have an extensive conversation with you. But I got some questions that I know a lot of people are going to have, especially people who want to eventually transition to OA. So let's get started. Back when I was in college, I basically paid for my college through just flipping textbooks on campus. So my competitive advantage was being in the textbook exchange group, being in the Freedom for Sale group. I was even able to work out a deal with the campus bookstore to buy some discounted books and flip those on Amazon. So that was like my competitive advantage that helped me find textbooks for a good deal. So I'm curious, I know from our conversation in Miami, you also had a competitive advantage. So if you could just walk us through, like, what was your model like? How did you flip textbooks on campus? And if you explain it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll share some value. Usually I'll drop this kind of stuff in the course, but for those of you guys who are over here on Joji's channel, yeah, so I was doing the same thing as you, like going around buying textbooks locally, all that kind of stuff. But I also set up a brand. Like if you're doing it already, like you're walking around campus, like, hey, I'm the guy who sells textbooks. It's way easier for people to be like, hey, did you know that one guy who buys people's books? Or just like make a simple brand around it, right? So, Joji's books or wherever you're located, buyback or whatever you want to call it, right? Brand your company in a way. And I would just go out and set up shop at a local, coffee shop, wherever. Say, hey, I'm here all day. I'm selling your textbooks. And that was something I had a lot of fun doing. You get to see people coming in, selling the textbooks, and they're like, wow, the bookstore is going to give me like $5 for this, and we can pay them $20 and still make 40. And it's like, yeah, it just works out pretty well.
Yeah, that's so cool because I never thought about making a brand. I was more of, like I said, I was in the textbook exchange group, so I was just looking at people posting books. So I was always going to the books. But what was really interesting about our conversation in Miami is that I think you're much smarter about it. It's like you figured out how to get the books to come to you. So I thought that was really cool. My next question here is actually about your transition to OA. So I know obviously that you're very successful at textbooks, and a lot of times you get this advice like, why stop what's working, right? But obviously you decided to transition to OA. So for those OA, online arbitrage booksellers, which is basically everyone on my channel, I'm interested to know, since you have done some OA book sourcing with flip buying before, what are some of the skills that OA book flippers specifically would need to transition over to just traditional OA?
Honestly, like doing OA books is way harder than regular OA. Like any of you guys who came from the trenches, like doing books, like all that kind of stuff, like, because you have to look at a keepa chart and you have to be able to like infer the prime bump. You're like, can I, this $50 on the used line, actually it's $70. And so there's a lot of that where you have to just like fill in the gaps a little bit, and there's less filling in the gaps in OA. So I would say there's not a lot of like keepa knowledge gap for, book OA and regular OA.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually really good to know for like all of us on this channel. Cause I know for me, and I have some anxiety with trying out OA. It's kind of like you're in that you don't know what you don't know, but it's actually really good to hear that from the legend himself, that if I can read a keepa chart for a book, that I can read a keepa chart for some other OA products. So that's really cool. Now I know for people trying to transition to OA, like one of the biggest barriers is the gating, right? My understanding is that a few years ago, ungating was a lot more difficult. Now it seems to be a lot more easy. You find a product on Amazon that you want to sell, you're restricted in it. You got to go find that over on another website. You got to buy quantity 10, get an invoice, basically go request approval, submit that invoice. So I'm just wondering, is that really how easy it is? Or are there any sort of tips and tricks you can give us for being successful with how to get ungated in certain brands?
Yeah. I hear that all the time. Like if ungating is the thing holding you back, like stop and go do OA today.
Yeah.
Ungating is super easy. Like you can go to a legit wholesaler, like Frontier Co-op is one that I use as an example.
Okay.
So you can go like buy 10 units of Burt's Bees or whatever, spend $40 on the 10 units, and then you can take that invoice, submit it to Amazon, and not only are you now allowed to sell beauty products, but you're also allowed to sell Burt's Bees products. Gotcha. Same goes for like Legos. If you just want to sell Legos, like go to lego.com, get 10 units of something, you can probably start selling toys and Legos. It's going to unlock a lot of opportunity for you guys who are only selling books right now.
Awesome. That's great content. I think that's how I did get ungated, was Burt's Bees. So I'll go and link that product down below, the one that I use specifically, but that's some great advice. The next question is, like, a lot of people trying to get an OA, obviously IP complaints is something that's really scary, right? I'm a bookseller. I don't really have to worry about IP complaints. I have to kind of worry about counterfeit claims sometimes, but IP complaints is not something I have to worry about. So, I've done a little bit of research. I've kind of understood that there's like 3 or 4 things that we're looking for. So I'm wondering if you could just vet my idea for how I can basically walk through whether or not I could get IP complaints. So like the first one, easiest one is like, dude, just buy IP alert. Like that seems like it's a crowdsourced thing. Other people say if they've got IP complaints. Another thing is like, if the brand is clearly selling that item, then that probably means you could potentially get an IP complaint if they're selling it. And then maybe the third one is like doing just a little bit more of a deep dive on Keepa, looking at the new offer tab and seeing if maybe, hey, do you see a big drop off or a big cliff in offer count? So I'm curious, are there other things that you do? Like what's the sort of process or system you and your VAs would go through to identify if like this could potentially have an IP claim?
For sure. Yeah. That's a good list you made there. So that's going to be able to identify most IP complaints. There's also a free one that I recommend to you guys called Seller Journal Greenlight. It's just a free website. You can plug it in. Does the same thing as IP Alert, but you have to go and type in the website. So over time, it's worth it to get that little Chrome extension. Okay. But most of the time, like even within IP Alert, there's items that look green and we end up getting an IP on. And there's items that have, the little red siren and says you're getting an IP complaint and you don't. And you can kind of slip through and find some opportunity there. So for us, it's all in the keepa analysis. Like you guys are very familiar with keepa analysis.
Yes, sir.
So if you ever go and you see like, the new sellers was 10 and then the next day it's 3, like dropped off a cliff, then it's a pretty good sign that the brand went out and sent out some IP complaints. So it's a lot of looking in the keepa. Having that back of mind knowledge from the community is also big as well. Like, you'll hear people talking about, IP complaints with like Hydro Flask and stuff like that are very just infamous in the community. So it's it's a combination of a couple things, but you can definitely avoid most of them. And then like I know everyone's worried about IP. Even if you do get them, you can beat them with retail receipts, retail invoices. I do it all the time. I know that's a big myth that a lot of people believe. So even if you do make a mistake and get something you get an IP complaint on, you're just going to go submit that invoice, send a little POA to Amazon. It should get wiped away.
Okay, that's such good information there. The retail receipts, because honestly, like one of the things holding me back is like I just really don't want to risk the book business. Like it's definitely doing well for me, and it's like, man, if I get an IP complaint, I don't know if that's gonna be the end of it. And obviously, I don't know what I don't know. So hearing that a retail receipt could work, I think that's awesome. That's golden information. Now going into like the hurdles and the struggles, I'm curious as like you being someone who's obviously a coach, you've been in the game for a long time. People come to you, they ask you questions. You've seen a ton of people succeed. You've probably seen way more people fail. So I'm wondering, what is like that one thing, or what are a couple things that really just prevent people from going to? Well, is it a mental thing? Is it a capital thing? What is it? What would you say?
Yeah, at the beginning, I think it's very mental, like you're talking about. Obviously, long term, it's building systems and having people to fall back on. If you get a little burned out one week, your VAs can pick up the slack a little bit. Like that's what it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna take to do 2, 3, 5 years in this business. But on month 1, month 2, you're gonna be slamming your head against the wall. You're gonna suck at it. Like it's just what it is, right? Yeah. If you could pick it up and be A+ at it on month 1, I probably wouldn't still be doing it. Probably wouldn't be profitable, right? If it was that easy to pick up. And that's so it's it's just gonna take a little bit of practice, right? Putting in the reps, going out there and just watching free YouTube content. Do what they did in the video. Find a couple products, right?
Check this guy out right here. Free YouTube content. He's the master. Awesome. So I'm wondering, in terms of circling back to competitive advantage, like back to textbooks, your competitive advantage was you build a brand, you had people come to you. I did a little bit more stupidly, and I had to go to people to do it. So I'm curious, when it comes to your competitive advantage for OA, there's a number of things that I could think that would give you an advantage, such as probably like building relationships with the people and sharing leads like that. Probably another one would be being very creative with the discounts, like taking it something that's MSRP and finding a store-wide sale, finding a coupon, finding cashback, credit cards, or gift cards, all those things, and stacking it. And then another one would be just being really good, really efficient at sourcing. So I'm curious, of those things, like what would you say is like the main competitive advantage that's going to take like a regular OA seller who's just average to one that's like next level?
Yeah, I think to get to that normal OA seller level, it's just understanding here's the coupons I can buy products off of, and I can stack cash back to kind of increase my margin. But the thing I see that takes people from doing 10, 20, 30K a month OA to the 6-figure a month mark is always building that network, having people to hey, I got an IP complaint, what do I do about it? Hey, I found this item, I know you like to sell this type of item. They're going to say, hey, I know you like beauty products, there's this sale going on. Like a lot of that is what it takes to kind of reach that 6-figure a month mark and beyond. I'm sure there's people out there crushing who are just all keeping it all themselves, but I bet even they would admit that they probably could have done a little bit faster if they'd gone out and made friends.
Awesome. That's golden advice. And I mean, one of the reasons why I did want to go to Miami, like if I'm being honest, one of the reasons I went was to meet you, was to meet the Warner Field. I'm not even joking. I was like, if I get a 1 hour conversation with Warner Fields, dude, like it's well worth way more. So yeah, I'm really glad that we could build this friendship, because really cool guy. I know you didn't want to play me in basketball because I'd beat you, but that's okay.
I played for 10 years, Joji. I'll probably give you the smoke, man.
I know you would smoke. The only reason why I challenged him, everyone, now is because I already left Miami. That's the only reason why I can challenge him. So he can't do anything now. I can say that for the next however long until I see him again, and then I gotta shut my mouth. But talking about basketball specifically, I know that you said you started playing basketball in 2nd grade. Clearly, you're very talented. You've got the athletic ability, but obviously to get to that level, you need some level of coaching. So I'm sure starting at 2nd grade all the way up, you did the cone work, you did the footwork, you put the repetitions in. So I'm wondering, transitioning that to like Amazon, like how important is it to have a coach? How important is it to have something like the FBA Roadmap, Lightspeed FBA? Like how is coaching? What sort of value would that add to somebody who's new, who wants to scale?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna be the guy who's sitting here being like I think there's like a Grant Grant Cardone clip or whatever. He's like, you got your last $1,000, give it to me. I'm like, I'm not that guy. Like, if you are someone who's got, you know, several $1,000, especially if you're thinking about like getting an actual coach, like it's a no brainer. Like next time I start a business, I'm going to be investing in someone to tell me what to do. 100%. But if you're that guy who's got $1,000, $1,500 to start, don't spend that. Don't give that money to somebody on the internet. Spend it on software and spend it on actual products so you can go and get reps, right? So I think if you're someone who has a little bit of money and wants to buy the fast track, that's what it's there for. But you can absolutely make a lot of money without paying for any other information. I haven't really paid for much information in my career. To be fair, it wasn't really around like the stuff that I wanted to buy back in the day. That was kind of the idea, right? Is I want to build the stuff I wish I had. But yeah, it's definitely not essential. Like people crush without paying for a dime for information.
No, I 100% agree. Like I definitely think you're a pioneer in that field, which is, you know, creating some courses that help people out with OA specifically. You know, obviously FBA Roadmap is talked about a lot. So I want to give you the opportunity. Could you kind of just give people who are on my channel who do OA books specifically, but want to transition to normal OA, what would they be getting in the FBA Roadmap? What sort of value would that give to them? What sort of mistakes and lessons have you learned that is in that course that's going to help?
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity, man. We built that. We've been continuously adding to it over the last, I guess, over a year at this point. And the idea was like, I want to build that guide that I wish I had when I started and put it at a price point that it does not belong at. So it's like 14 hours of content. You get weekly Zoom calls, you know, group Q&A. There's a private Discord. You get software and prep discounts. Like I said, it's way too cheap. It's exactly what I wish I had. And you get like 14 days. If you don't like it, like I don't want to keep your money. Send me an email. I'll give it to you back. Right.
Yeah, that's so cool. I appreciate that. It's definitely something that I'm going to be going into the future. So I'm going to link that down below, FBA Roadmap, for anyone who wants to check that out. So we are ending, you know, this interview because, or we're coming to the end because Warner, he's got things to do. He's going to the moon. You know, I think he's honestly probably already at the moon. So maybe it's just he's going to Mars. He might be the first person there. But I want to know, last question, fun question. When you become billionaire, Warner, Fields of Profit, which NBA team are you buying and why?
That's funny. Now I want to back up. It's funny you say that. That like feels like I'm up here because it's very Sisyphusian, right? Like I'm sure when you started, it was like, man, if I can do 100K a month or 100K a year, like that's crazy. So it's never like that. Like it's it'd be fun if it felt like that. And I look at other guys that are doing like you look at Amazon Lit and they're doing like what I've done ever and every month. So it's just play your own game. You know what I mean? Like everybody's sitting at home. If you're making money on the internet and you know a bunch of your friends aren't, you're winning, right? But yeah, to answer your question, I don't know which I'd buy. Maybe I'm a Grizzlies fan a little bit. My buddy likes the Grizzlies. I'm from around there-ish. John Morant's pretty fun to watch too. So that might be my answer for now.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, everyone, we're going to end the interview here. Warner, where can the people find you on YouTube if they don't already know who you are?
Yeah. You can check me out. Fields of Profit. Tons of free guides on YouTube, pretty much on every other platform. If you want to shoot me a quick DM, ask me a question, anything like that.
Awesome. Thanks, Warner. I appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
See you guys.
All right, dude. I appreciate it, dude. You're a legend.